just going to take a little time to finish up the year in 2015 and talk about a few things. And one, of course, as we look at it right now, based on the weather that we're getting today and the forecast, we pretty much have pulled the door close on fall tillage, and that's strip till as well as fall tillage itself. Big percentage of that is done. A lot of you guys have done real good this year as far as your timing of getting it all done. On new ground or ground that you didn't get it done, though, it's time to come up with Plan B. What are we going to do in place of that tillage out there itself? Are we going to do no-till corn on corn, spring strip till, that type of thing? So it's time to start thinking about Plan B. Same way with the fertilizer. If it's not on yet, the door is probably closing for that. With today's environmental conditions and stuff we have out there, we probably don't want to be putting too much of anything on frozen ground. So we start to look for spring applications. Now, with the warm weather that we've had here the last 30 days, it really has changed the appearance of the residue out here. The stalks around the office here have turned from a bright yellow to a dark gray to a black even. So the decomposition is still well underway out here, and that's going to decrease our carbon issues in your corn on corn fields for next year itself. So that's a good thing. The downside of that is, as we track average daily temperatures here, in these wild swings in temperatures, we have bumped back above 50-degree temperatures at the 4-degree level. We dip up a while, we come back down. Now all the nitrogen that's already on that is protected is still going to be all right. It's going to be protected, but we are shortening the life of our inhibitors, meaning that it's going to release on us earlier next spring than probably we would like it to. So that's something we're going to have to keep our eyes on as far as what the potential would be to some of that nitrogen getting away if we had to have a wet April on the other side of it itself. Definitely right now is a time to do your homework and double down on the effort you put on your yield maps. So let's look these yield maps over closely and see if there's anything in there that we can find. Of course, this will be a good year for a lot of you to identify drainage. And you can look at a map and say, well, I got a wet spot there, it's a drainage issue, and maybe we can add tile to it next year. But the main thing would be is those areas need to be marked out as what we call high risk. So if I know that this area has a tendency to get wet or drowned out, it's going to be a high risk area that we watch when we're looking at things like nitrate in the nitrate testing season next summer. We want to go into our high risk areas and identify what kind of nitrates are there. Looking at the nitrates right now, they're down in the 2 and 3 part per million range, which means we have pretty much leached all the nitrate that was left over from last year, is because we're below normal nitrate levels. So we're not going to carry any nitrate forward from this year into next year to count on in that case itself. The other thing we want to do when we're looking at those yield maps is evaluate really strong how you did in placing your hybrids and where. So situation as you're making decisions for next year, we want to go back and look at those maps and how well did your best hybrid do on your light ground, your heavy ground. And you'll find in the poorly drained farms, there's some hybrids that can handle their feet being wet and others that can't. And this is a great time to be kind of studying it field by field, hybrid by hybrid, to help pick those positioning. See how well you did with your positioning of this year to help you do a better job for next year. And when you see a hybrid that either doesn't or does perform well, try to figure out the why. Why is this hybrid 40 bushel better than this one? When a year ago they were equal, or maybe in inverse type of a yield scenario. Be looking at what was the cause for it and could I have fixed it. Some examples, for instance, we'll show you this winter in our data. We got anywhere from 20 to 40, 45 bushel responses this year to a fungicide. You take 45 bushel off the top of a hybrid and you're going to move it down in that lineup. Now, granted, other hybrids may not have had that kind of response because they didn't have the disease pressure. But if northern leaf blight is a weak link in that disease, you wouldn't throw the hybrid out because you know its performance. You just recognize the fact that when we have the pressure like we had this year, that's one of its weaknesses and you're going to manage it. But just throwing the hybrid out because it doesn't perform anymore would probably be a mistake. So you're going to look at disease packages, leaf type, ear structure. Is it positioned right? Was it in the right spot out there? And that's the homework that we need to do right now as we start going through these yield maps itself. Got a lot of calls about people moving away from the GMO market, going into non-GMO, trying to cut seed cost. And I don't have any problem with that. I don't have any problem with planting non-GMO or moving away from rootworm corn into something that's you may have to put an insecticide on. trying to lower your seed costs, but don't walk away or run away from good genetics that you know into stuff that you don't know. So blindly going out there and trying hybrids on large scale acres for the first time without really evaluating that hybrid and looking at it in neighborhood plots, making sure it's at the upper end, that you're not moving from good genetics to poor, because everybody knows sometimes the free bag of seed that you get for a plot ends up being the most expensive bag. So as we work on trying to whittle down some of these costs within the seed side, make sure you're picking hybrids that you're comfortable with, not just that you're comfortable with the price tag itself within it. So as we put our plans together right now, help us to evaluate what we're going to change for next year. We'll show you a lot of work that we've done on the nitrogen side as far as timing and placement of nitrogen and how that's going to play into it. It's going to play into it from a dollar return investment as far as the time you're putting into it, but it's also going to be part of the nutrient management strategies everybody's going to have to be thinking about down the road. But as we study what we did this year, it's report card time, and then we make our changes or predict our changes for next year. With that, I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and the happiest of holidays. We appreciate your business here at Crop Tech, and we're looking forward to doing business with you again next year.